And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside Los
Angeles. I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, let's try it again. Welcome to The Bald Truth. I'm Spencer Kobren, and you know, as you guys probably see, I'm not in my studio. Now let me ask Andrew. Andrew, is the sound okay now?
Sounds great.
All right. Not in my studio. We moved the compound this week, which was insanity, by the way. If you guys ever had to move house and your workplace simultaneously, it's insane. But I'm glad that we're here. We're going to have a much bigger space, a much bigger studio, and I'm extremely excited to build it out. A lot of you guys, actually, even the Bald Truth guys, not just the internet broadcasting guys, asked me if I can maybe provide, do a video on, building my studio. I do just about everything myself. Actually, now I do everything myself. So I'd be more than happy to do that. Right now, it's a complete mess. So you can see that I'm basically in, I guess this is our billiards room. How obnoxious is that? But this is where I am doing the show. Let me go out the phone number. We have a special GFQ hotline number tonight, which is 718-717-2200. That's 718-717-2200. Looks like I may be having some bandwidth issues, but you guys, let me know if there's a problem. It's an interesting week in the world of hair loss. No major news or anything, so don't flip out. But I really don't take, and I should be more involved in the message forums, but I'm not. I just don't have the time, and sometimes there's so much information to read. But I was contacted by someone who said that they learned a lot about surgical hair restoration through Bald Truth Talk. Wanted to thank the Bald Truth and me personally for allowing, providing this platform where consumers and other hair loss sufferers who have not decided to go for surgery yet can really learn about everything when it comes to surgical hair restoration. And he also says he's a fan of the show. But the truth is, I think, listen, I love the message forum. It has it gives people tremendous opportunity to share and to learn and to be a part of something after the broadcast and to share their experiences with each other. But I always have to put this out there, that as much as you can learn on Bald Truth Talk message forums, there's always going to be some bullshit that's going to be posted by guys who really don't know what they're talking about. So, my suggestion is to use the forums, use them wisely, understand what you're involved in, understand that anyone can post anything for the most part on these forums, and you never really know where it's coming from. So if you are going to make the decision to have surgical hair restoration, yes, the forums are a powerful place, but you really need to do your due diligence, to move on beyond the forums. You can gather a lot of good information. And again, there are people on there who will kind of like bang their drums to, specific agendas. So you kind of have to learn to read between the lines. But you need to go beyond the forum when you're going to make a decision to have a hair transplant. And that is very, very important. Now, it looks like I'm freezing up here. I don't know if it's just my internet or if we're freezing up completely. But again, I'm not in my studio. I'm basically just in my house at a table doing this broadcast. And I just wanted to make sure that we can get a live show out today. And it sounds really weird, like my headset is muffled. I don't really have a microphone. This is basically a prop because it's not working right now. But, and man, you can really see my hair up close in this thing. So, be kind, people. Let me give out the phone number, 718-717-2200, 718-717-2200. Andrew, you there, man?
Hey, Spence.
Hey. So were you able to get Joe the hotline?
Yeah, he has the hotline. I'm here if you're having any issues. I'm also here in the studio in Queens, and everything is okay.
So what's happening with you?
Nothing much. I mean, I'm 100% today. I was sick all week. I came down with a awful flu, and I could have swore to you that my hair was falling out while I was sick.
Really?
Yeah. It was. I thought I was losing my mind, but I'm convinced that my hair was falling out while I was sick.
Well, your hair looks pretty good right now. You have it wet. Did you just get out of the shower?
No, it's gel. But I'll tell you something. And Joe is on hold, so we'll get to Joe also. But I have been gimmicking up my hair for the last month, where now I have to kind of make my hair I have to kind of gel it in a certain way so you don't see some of the receding hairline in the front.
Really?
So, yeah,
come on, man.
yeah. I'm starting to do all that stuff.
Gel it? It looks like you're combing your hair straight back. It doesn't look like it's gimmick. Mine is gimmick.
No. There's a whole process, Spence. In the front, I have to actually not gel this part and then fluff it a little bit, so it doesn't look as wet as the rest of my hair looks.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's starting to get they're starting to get a little weird.
Well, you're how old now? You're 28.
20. Oh, gonna be 29. Yeah.
I got to tell you, man. Not that's listen. You're still a kid, but if it's starting at this point, you kind of, you lived most of your 20s with a completely full head of hair, and I know it sucks either way, but I mean, you're in a good position. That's all I'm saying. There's great opportunities. I mean, if you wanted to move forward using medication, which I know you've tried before and you had no problems with.
Yeah, listen, it's I'm not losing a significant amount, but it's about the same time last year when I went to Dr. Frank.
Has that been a year?
It's been almost a year. Yeah, it was April, and he had given me a 3-month appointment to go back to him, and I never went because my hair just stopped falling out. So I think it's something to do with my body at a certain time. It's okay, time to shed a little bit.
Interesting. Well, I mean, people do go through synchronized sheds, so it's definitely possible. All I can tell you is just watch it. I've known you for a long time. It doesn't look to me that your hair is much different, except you now comb it straight back. So that makes any type of recession more apparent. When I first met you, you kind of had what you had what is that? The blowout?
I had a faux hawk.
A faux hawk. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a faux hawk. But it's also I love the show, but I think the show is also giving me some paranoia.
Look what I got going on today. Jesus. I'm
too close to the camera. It's looking great.
Jesus. I mean, the comb over, it's really high today. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But I have this paranoia now because of the show. Because every time I start shedding a little bit or my my hair changes a little bit, I start freaking out because of the show.
Well, everybody does. And that's why I tell people, and I've been doing this, since 1998, young guys who have called the program who are just really not in a position where they have to worry about their hair loss. Either they have a family member or, when I was on terrestrial radio, a lot of guys would just listen to the show in their cars. And one of my biggest stations that I was on was WJFK in Washington, D.C. Huge blowtorch of a FM talk station. And I remember this one kid, he was 14 years old, and he would just hang out and listen to the show and call in, and he just enjoyed the show. And he said that he wasn't paranoid about his hair loss. However, he would call in to ask questions because he knew his dad was bald. What was interesting about that kid is years later, this is 9 years later. So how old is he? 23 years old? Yeah. Contacts me, sends me an email, says that he started to lose his hair. And it's because of the bald truth that he decided to do something about it. And he's so glad that he listened all these years. So I do tell kids and guys like you who really don't need to listen, you might be better off not listening, but gaining the information, preemptively, gaining the information, prophylactically, it's not such a bad thing.
Listen, the story. My youngest brother, he's 18, and he listens and watches the show religiously every single week.
Well, I don't get your brother, though. I mean, your brother's hair is unbelievable. He's got to have better things to do.
If you could be a reverse Norwood, he's like a reverse Norwood 6. Like a negative Norwood 6.
That's true.
His hairline starts at his eyebrows, the kid.
It's unbelievable, man.
We got.
You know what you want? Yeah, put Joe on.
Yeah, we got Joe on the line. So let's bring Joe on. Joe, you're on.
Am I on the air live?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Let me make a brief comment to the audience. As the audience knows, again, Forbes magazine has named Carlos Slim the richest man in the world.
Did you guys see? You're gonna have to say that again, dude. Start over.
As the audience knows, Forbes magazine has again this year named Carlos Slim the richest man in the world. This cat is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and he's a no at 7. And all his money, he can't do a damn thing about his hair loss. Let the conspiracy theorists finally realize that if something really existed like they think it does, this guy would have a full head of hair, and he doesn't. So guys, wake up. No one's holding the cure, believe me. Believe me, this cat will be no at 7.
Joe from Staten Island.
Wake up, guys, and stop being so psychotic.
I'm coming! May I reiterate? Have you heard it?
So theme song? Am I live?
Joe from Staten Island.
Am I on the air?
Yes, you're on the air.
What my theme song? Andrew has a sleeping time?
Andrew played your theme song.
I have everything. I'm already here.
So I'm sorry, guys. Just if you're new to this broadcast, the first time you're viewing this or listening to it, you know, I'm doing the show basically from my living room. So my studio is not set up at this point. We just moved the compound, and we are trying to do our best. And you know, Joe, I knew that you'd be pissed if I didn't get the show out this week live. I knew that a lot of our guys would be pissed. So
let me say, Spencer, you look really different tonight. From you not being in a studio, it's dramatically different.
Well, is that good or bad?
No, you're obviously a very handsome man. Just you look different. I can't explain it. You look different. Not your hair. Your hair looks the same, but your face looks different for some reason. I can't pinpoint it.
Well, I don't know if that's a nice thing or if that's a, you know, I have no. With you, Joe, I never know.
No, you actually look much younger in that setting than you do in the mid-30s, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I mean, I have a camera right in my face, and so I'm sure that my detractors are like, you know, trying to figure out my hairline.
No, your hair looks great, man, as usual. You know.
Oh, thank you.
I have no news except. Go ahead, Spencer. I'm sorry.
I got nothing to say.
No, I'm just saying. You know, you were attacked last week in the chat room because you weren't working. You know, they attacked you.
What? Who attacked me? Would Bald Jerry attack me again?
No, not Jerry. Jerry's a good friend. Jerry doesn't attack you. Jerry's a good friend of the Bald Jerry, Spencer. He's one of my fans. He's one of your number one fans.
I'm just screwing around with Jerry.
Jerry's good people. I was viciously attacked by two well-known Bald Truth people. I'd rather not mention his names. It was horrific infighting in the chat room last week.
Like what kind of infight?
I'm still trying to recover from it. A young lady who name begins with a T. I'm sure you're aware of her. And another cat. I won't mention his name. Obviously, begins with an A. They viciously attacked me last week, but I disagree with them. It was horrifying.
Tracy attacked you last week?
Yes. She said, Joe,
man.
You may be famous, but you're not very smart.
Oh.
I was obviously horrified by that attack.
Tracy. You have to have more patience for people, Tracy. Come on.
And Arista attacked me also.
Who did?
Arista.
Now that's interesting. I can't imagine him attacking anybody, and not that I can imagine Tracy. I mean, but I've seen Tracy, you know, have some, you know, issues with some people, mostly, you know, people who have attacked her. But Arista, that's bizarre. So what did he attack you about?
Because I disagree with him. Something these people are insisting these things work, and I'm trying to tell them these things don't work, and they take it personally. They say, "Hell, as expert." And I'm ignorant.
Well, listen, I will say this, Joe, that you do have a tendency to repeat yourself a lot. So I think that some of our more well-versed fans, some of the guys, and I think you may have just dropped, but some of our more well-versed.
He got dropped.
Okay. Some of our more well-versed fans who are really involved in the message forums are kind of like, well, Joe just says the same shit every week. And I get that. The reason you're on the program, Joe, yeah, you're on. The reason you're with us for the last 14 years, the reason why I allow you to continue to be a regular caller is because there's a little Joe, there's a part of Joe in all of us. So even if you repeat yourself, even if you start talking about chicks with cranks, all the stuff that you do, you are on that end of the spectrum that I think is important for especially the young guys to see. So that, and I've said this before, so don't take this the wrong way, so that these guys can see what it's like to be such a severe hair loss sufferer that you basically have wasted a lot of your life suffering and hiding away and being medicated and self-medicating. And, Tracy and Arista and whoever's out there that is unhappy with Joe's presence on the Bald Truth for whatever reason, give the guy a break. The guy's been through hell and back.
No, but especially the point is, like, I can't make up news like these guys on the message forums. They create their own news. I'm a journalist. I report the news. I can't create news. You understand that?
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, these people get all offended when they think they make up that don't exist. They want me to agree with them, and I can't agree with them. I'm reading the chat, by the way. Tracy is certainly not being attacked on this show. Tracy is a friend of the Bald Truth, and we are a friend of hers. And I think that she has contributed a lot to Bald Truth Talk. And I know that, she is an interesting situation, being, a woman who's been through at least one hair transplant that I'm aware of, and who takes the time to go on the forums and give a lot, to give a lot of people information and to try to give back and do whatever she does to be involved. And, she gets a lot of shit. So I don't want anyone in the chat room thinking that either Joe or I am attacking Tracy. I mean, Joe might be. I don't know. Joe. No, I'm not attacking her. I'm saying she attacked me. She said I wasn't very smart. I was very famous and very smart. When she said that to me, I almost had a nervous breakdown. I've been bedridden all week over her commentary last week in the chat room. It was horrifying, the chat room. I only had Jerry defending me. Jerry and Johnny from Ohio.
All right. Well, listen, Joe, I want to take some more phone calls. You want to hold? Can you keep them on hold?
I can.
Can I say one thing quickly, Spencer?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no news to report except within the next 3 to 6 months, Histogen, Allergen, and Adirans will make an announcement on whether or not to go on to Phase 3. That's the only facts I can present to you. I can't lie to the audience. Can I, Spencer, to make them happy?
You can do whatever you want. I'll just tell them you're lying.
I have breaking news tonight. We'll have an effective treatment in a month. This is what the cats want to hear. Can I say that? No. I'm like you, Spencer. I've been with you 14 years. You never lie. I never lie. Is that correct?
All right.
Except to my wife.
All right.
Except to my wife, though.
You got a lie to your wife. We got the phone number, Joe, 718-717-2200. Andrew, who's on the next line?
Call, you on the air.
See this hit. Hey, caller, you're on the air. What can I do for you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Do you hear me?
Hi, who's this?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
How are you doing, Spencer?
I'm fine. Who's this?
A caller, long-time viewer.
Okay, so what's happening? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from far, far away, actually. From Europe.
Is this who I think it is?
It sounds like it might be.
No.
Is this?
It might be.
Is this Scorpion
I
Resurrected?
wanted to ask you something. I wanted to ask you some opinions.
Go ahead, man.
Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, what about using finasteride combined with dutasteride every day and using minoxidil on top of that 2 times a day? And should that be enough to prevent hair loss?
You know, it really depends on the person. I would never recommend, and again, I'm not a physician, anyone using finasteride and dutasteride. I know that there's plenty of guys that do it, and there are guys that have started on finasteride and then they didn't want to stop using it. They kind of, instead of upping their dosage, they decided to add, dutasteride to the mix. You know, there's a lot of doctors out there who say that's overkill and that you're really playing with your hormones to the point where it could be significantly dangerous. However, I also know guys who have done both for a while and they've had no adverse side effects to report. And, you know, we just don't know. I certainly wouldn't recommend it. As far as will this be enough, including your minoxidil use, to keep your hair or to regrow hair, that depends on the person. Sometimes, you know, the genes for male pattern baldness are so significant in your lineage that no matter what you do, it will maybe keep things at bay for a while, but it won't necessarily stop the progression. And in some cases, there are people out there that they can put whatever agents they use. They can use dutasteride, finasteride, minoxidil, all in the same, at the same time, and they don't benefit at all. So it's a difficult thing. You know, we can't really give a specific answer. I wish I could say, you know what, if you take A, B, and C, you are not going to go bald. That's not the case. If you're lucky, you won't. For me, finasteride has done a great job. It's done the trick as far as slowing the progression of my hair loss for many years. I've been on it for about 20 years. And, you know, I haven't had any adverse side effects that I'm aware
of. Okay, let me tell you my story. I have been on finasteride for 1 year, and I did not have any improvements. In fact, my hair got worse. If I was Norwood 2 when I started, then now I'm must be Norwood 3. And I see it slowly progressing in the temples. I started dutasteride 2 months ago, and I'm starting to take it every day along with finasteride. I have had no side effects at all.
That's great.
And I'm thinking that maybe I should start something stronger like spironolactone, because I can't believe that there are no ways to fix this disease, to break it down completely. I'm willing to try whatever it takes. There should be something.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that I would still be on the air for 15 years if these agents worked for most people? You know, you have to understand that they have limited capabilities. You know, in my case, I've done well, but I can tell you that I have continued to bald slowly over the years. I paint the back of my head while I maintain somewhat of a hairline. You know, it's definitely recessed. And, you know, today, especially with the camera right in my, in my mug, I'm looking at it. It's kind of like, you can see the hairspray. You can see the way that I have to comb it. I started to take this drug many years ago, and I had better hair at the time. Let me get rid of this cat. And so I definitely have progressed over the years. So I do believe that in time there's going to be a way to break this down. But right now, it's the luck of the draw. If your body does well with these medications, if you react the way that you want to react, that we hope to react, then yes, there's no reason to think that you're not going to, this cat's going to knock my wine over, you're not going to be able to maintain the hair that you have for many, many years. But there's no guarantees, man. There's no guarantees. And as long as you're not having adverse side effects, and hopefully you're seeing a doctor while you're taking these drugs, then I don't see any reason why. And again, I'm not blaming.
Doctors.
Now, let me ask you this: why is that? Why aren't you checking yourself out? Well, I know that, but you got the prescription, or you got the drug, whatever it is, you're on it. But don't you think at the very least you should have yourself checked out to make sure that you're not doing any damage? Maybe have some liver enzyme tests just to make sure that everything is functioning well.
Well, I have no libido problems so far, and no breast.
Well, that's great. And, like I say, I'm a guy who's been on it for a long time. To my knowledge, I have no libido problems. I am 47 years old, and I would say that, all these guys online claim that if you take finasteride, you're not going to be able to maintain muscle mass, let alone build new muscle.
That's bullshit. I'm ripped as fuck.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I'm almost 50. I'm not ripped as fuck, but I have maintained a pretty decent physique all these years without, and while taking this drug. So, I think that in your case,
I'm taking finasteride for a year, and I have perfect physique.
That's awesome. I'm glad. So you do sound familiar though. So I'm glad. I'm glad that you're still around. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm still around. And I hope that you're doing okay in your life, man. I really do. I know you've struggled a lot.
Well, the hair is a problem.
Go ahead.
The hair is a problem, and I really I'm looking to fix it with a transplant. So maybe could you recommend the doctors that could turn a Norwood 3 into a Norwood 1? I want to get that perfect hairline. That's my goal, and I'm not going to stop.
Well, I can tell you this. I cannot, because I don't think that there are any doctors that I could recommend that would. And if I remember correctly, you're pretty young, right? So you're like, what, 25 or 20 or something like that?
Yes.
Okay. It's going to be tough, man. I can tell you that these people will turn you down. Most of the ethical guys will turn you away because they don't know what the future holds with you. And the thing is, for a lot of young guys, in time, they kind of will move on. And if they're not given the option to have a transplant, they might be able to deal with it a little bit better when they're, say, 25 or 30. Or there are some guys, if you go to the message forum, that are 18, 19 years old that are able to move forward with it. There's one guy, Vic from DC, that said, I don't know if you listened to the show last week, but he was thankful that he was a part of the broadcast, and he called in for the last year and a half or whatever it is, because he was very desperate to get a hair transplant. And he actually said that the show gave him time to kind of grow into his hair loss and realize that he doesn't even want surgery now. And he was about to pull that trigger. So once you're cut, man, you're cut, whether you have FUT or FUE. Everyone thinks that FUE is the end all be all, but I will tell you this, that even with the best surgeons out there, it's very rare that you could really shave your head down to the bone if that's what you want to do in the end. So once you're cut, no matter what the procedure is. Even there are some guys out there that are making all types of claims in Europe that they're doing non-scarring FUE types of procedures. They really don't exist. Even if it's microscopic scarring, if you move enough grafts, you're going to have a confluence of scarring that could really, in the end, cause problems if you decide to shave your head. So, listen, I get it, man. You want to reach
shaving head is not an option ever in my life.
Well, then, let me ask you this: do you think, at the age of 30, that you're going to feel the same way that you do about your hair right now?
Yes, I have felt the same way for about 10 years, and I will remain the same forever.
So you were 10 years old when you started to, or however old you were, 12 years old when you started to worry about your hair?
No, I am saying for about 10 years, I've been worrying about this stuff.
Why? What? So okay, but it couldn't be your hair. What else are you worrying about for the last 10 years?
No, my father is bald.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Can you give me a name, like a real name or another name besides your online handles that I can refer to you as?
Well, I am not Highlander. I don't know who that guy is, and I am not him. But you can call me James.
Okay, James. So, but you're Scorpion, and that's great because you're alive, and I'm happy to hear your voice. James, let me ask you about your life right now. What is your life like? What is your day in day? Are you going to school? Do you have a significant other, girlfriend, or someone that that you spend time with?
I do have another human being in my life.
Okay, and is this human being important to you?
Yes, she's relatively important to me.
Now,
And
I mean,
my life basically consists of trying to achieve financial success in order to fund the hair of my dreams.
let me ask you. Okay. So, what are you doing as far as trying to move forward with financial success?
I'm doing what I can to start my own business.
Well, I think that's great. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I admire. You know, if you know anything about me, I actually started my business, my first company, at the age of 22. So you know, I mean, the fact that you're doing that now, to me, is a very positive sign that, you know, eventually, yes, right now you want to do it to get your hair back, but it's going to, you know, you're going to have a much better life. The fact that you are being so, you know, ambitious at this stage in your life. So that's a positive thing. I'm glad you're doing that. Now, what about, you know, what do you do in the evenings? Like, what is your, I mean, do you spend most of your time online? Do you spend most of your time obsessing about your appearance? Or do you have any time in your life
I'm
you can enjoy
spending most
yourself?
of my time trying to earn money.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's a bad thing.
And money can buy hair. I believe it can. What about wigs? What about a hairpiece, Spencer? The final solution.
Well, I think that hair pieces are a good option for a lot of, you know, you have to realize that, James, that hair pieces are the most utilized hair replacement method in the world. You know, it's a $3.5 billion a year industry here in the US, and the biggest part of that industry, as far as products that work, are hair pieces. So I think it's a great option, but you have to understand, you have to be willing to be able to deal with the emotional aspects of wearing hair. Unless you really maintain it well, it could become something that...
Emotions are not a problem. Aesthetics is my goal.
Well, I'll tell you what. If your girlfriend is cool with it and you're cool with letting people know, you know, or new partners know that you're wearing a hairpiece, then a hairpiece could be the way to go. It could alleviate a lot of the shit that you're dealing with right now, knowing that you can do this for yourself.
My girlfriend is okay with whatever I decide to do in my life.
I think that's great then. Then you have someone who supports you. Then, you know, if you're willing to wear a hairpiece, then I think that you basically solved your problem. If you get to the point where you need to wear hair, then that is probably the easiest thing to do. If medication is not working for you, I would suggest that you wear hair before you even go for surgery. If you're willing to do that and you have a woman that's supporting you with that, then you can make it look natural. You have to learn how to finesse it, and eventually it's going to be a trial and error situation. But I would say you go for
Where
that.
can I get a perfect hairpiece? A perfect one that looks like rock star hair.
There's no perfect hair pieces. What you need to do is, you know, I would go to companies like coolpiece.com or Hair Direct, or, you know, and start to buy inexpensive online pieces to play with them and see if you can deal with it. You know, the thing is, you know, from what you're saying is, if you want perfect rock star hair, problem with hair pieces is, in my view, less is more. If you're wearing a hairpiece, you've got to show some scalp. Otherwise, it could look artificial. And if you're unwilling to show a little bit of scalp, at least in the hairline, or maybe in the back, then, especially at your age, man, it could be a giveaway. So there's no perfect solution at this point for hair loss. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there are solutions. But if you're looking at pure perfection, dude, James, it's not going to happen at this point, at least with hair. It may happen soon.
Can you just call me Scorpions? It sounds much cooler.
What'd you say? Say that again?
Scorpion sounded cooler.
Okay, I'll call you
than
Scorpion.
James.
All right, Scorpion, I will tell you that there's no perfect solution. You have to learn how to deal with it. But the thing is, the solution may not be perfect, but you could walk in this world with an imperfect solution and look perfect to other people. You know what I'm saying? If you decide to glue hair to your scalp, it's going to be imperfect because you have to worry about the maintenance and making sure it looks natural, and you may have a little anxiety when you're dealing with that. But if you work hard enough at that, you can make it look perfect to the rest of the world. So you can gain that, as you put it, that aesthetic, those aesthetics that you want. I personally think
that even today I can get perfect hair with extreme comb over and extreme amounts of hairspray.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was able to for a while. Now I can't. It's not bad. I'm almost 50, but I have extreme amounts of hairspray and a little bit of a comb over, and I paint my head. But eventually that will start to fail too. So you may decide you want to add some hair. I just think for you, man, judging from some of your old posts and the fact, and again, I'm so happy that you're okay and that you're calling the show. I just think that going for surgery in your case, it may end up causing you problems. Even at the best surgery, yeah, you appear to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, the type of guy who's going to be basically staring in the mirror and picking at every possible imperfection. At
What
least
do
with
I have to lose?
Money, time, possible necrosis, possible keloid scarring. You just never know.
I'm taking risks all my life. I'm taking risks with the medicament. I can take the risk with surgery.
Well, you know what? Again, I'm not going to talk you out of it. That is your play. That's what you want to do, and I got to respect what you want to do for yourself. But I will tell you that doctors out there, the guys in Europe. So what kind of surgery are you interested in? EQE?
I'm going to use an IHRS surgeon.
Okay. Well, and what type of surgery? Are you interested in FUE or FUT?
Strip surgery.
You're interested in strip surgery. Well, I will tell you that if you're 20 years old, I would certainly not recommend strip surgery. So I think you're 25. I think you're going down the wrong path at 25 to have strip surgery. That's just my opinion. I think strip surgery absolutely still has its role. I think that guys who have had previous surgeries, guys who will never shave their head, and guys who are mature enough to understand what the possible downside to having that linear scar is. But being that you're desperate, that you're 25 years old, there's no way. I would not let you have. I will
never shave my head.
Say it again.
I will never shave my head. Why is this not an option?
I just think you're too young to have a strip. I just think that at this stage you sound desperate. You sound like you want perfection, and you may regret having that type of cosmetic surgery. You have to understand that, it's almost like having a facelift. If you decide to have a facelift at any time, even the most non-invasive facelifts, basically they use a scalpel to cut your skin. You're going to have a scar, even if it's hidden. So those scars are going to be there. It's the same with linear.
I'm not afraid of scars. I have already have some scars on my head. I have my head broken 2 times.
All right. Well, I got to tell you this. Just listening to you, I would probably not I wouldn't recommend it. But the choice is ultimately yours. You're online. You know who the best strip surgeons are. You know where to go if you want to have surgery. You just have to find someone who's willing to perform surgery on someone your age. Now, if you're 25 years old and you have progressive hair loss, there probably will be some doctors who are willing to give you maybe one procedure. But if it's significantly progressing at your age, man, dude, I'm telling you, man, in my view, do your best to either wear a hairpiece or shave your head. And that's it. I know you say it'll never happen, but that's I'm not here to sell surgery, and I won't do it, especially to a young person.
Well, let's see what happens after 6 months to a year of the dutasteride treatment.
Well, you know what? I would, why don't you call the show back and call us back and let us know how you do. I'm glad that you're not having any adverse side effects, and I think that's an important story for other guys who are out there who are so shit scared to try these medications, especially finasteride.
I think that's bullshit. You should risk to achieve anything in this life, and that comes to hair as well.
Well, Scorpion, listen, we're going to take a quick break. I'm glad that you're okay.
Okay,
it's nice to hear your voice, and I wish you the best of luck. All right.
Thank you for the show. Goodbye.
Okay, take care. Phone number 718-717-2200. That's 718-717-2200. Andrew, do you? I need to take a break, so let's
We can take a break.
Are you there? Yeah, let's take a quick break. I'll get back to Joe and to some other calls. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Hey, guys. Phone number 718-717-2200. Having a little problem with my headset. As you guys can see, I am not in my studio. I'm in my new digs, and I am working on my studio. We moved the compound, and a big pain in the ass. However, I wanted to make sure that we can do the show live tonight, so I'm doing it basically from my billiards room, which don't mean to sound obnoxious, but, you know, I like to play pool, so I have a pool table. Phone number 718-717-2200. As you can see, I got a camera straight at my mug, so you guys can examine my hair even more closely than you normally do every week. So glad that Scorpion called the broadcast. Scorpion, longtime user of baldtruthtalk.com. He disappeared for a long time. There was rumors that he offed himself. I never thought that was the case, and I'm so glad that he has resurrected and called the program. And, you know, I hope that, you know, watching the show, calling into the show, maybe reading the forums can, you know, maybe help guide this guy in a safe direction. He sounds like a really smart kid. Sounds like he's suffering, just like we all do, and just like I did. Shit, when I was 21 years old, I was in a bad place. Or he says he's 25, whatever. I was in a bad place at 25 too, dealing with hair loss. I was not a happy camper. I was depressed. I was miserable. I was self-medicating. I was doing whatever I could. And you're talking like 1980. I was 21. I was 1987. I mean, you're talking about the dark ages of the hair loss industry, the dark ages of surgical hair restoration. Before, you know, even before minoxidil was approved by the FDA for hair loss. I was dealing with this. Now, my computer is really heating up. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm pumping my bandwidth too. I was in a bad position. You know, at least these young cats today have what they have. We had shit. I had to have, you know, and I was actually interviewed today for a pretty well-known blog. And I was telling this woman my story, and she couldn't believe it, that I was, you know, and I guess this reminds me of Scorpion because he's experimenting with certain things. But, you know, back in the day, I had a doctor prescribe basically to crush Lonitin tablets, minoxidil tablets, and compound them with alcohol and propylene glycol. And I had to bring this prescription to a compounding pharmacy to have this shit made up to put on my head. And I have to tell you, man, at the time it worked. It definitely gave me a little bit of time, maybe 2 extra years. And man, what a pain in the ass it was to use, but I did it. So Scorpion, I fucking understand what you're dealing with, you know, but now that I've lived so long with this and I've lived this life, you know, I just want to help to put things into perspective. And I hope that, you know, I just hope you benefit from what we do. That's all. Phone number 718-717-2200. We can pod Joe back up and see what he has to say. Is Joe there, Andrew?
Am I on the line, Spencer?
Yeah, you are, man.
First of all, I have to castigate you, Spencer. I'm sorry. Spencer.
Yeah, I'm listening, dude.
I'm going to have to castigate you.
Yeah.
You failed to introduce your cat. You failed to introduce your cat to the millions of viewers.
My character? Which character?
Excuse me?
Failed to introduce my cat?
Yeah, your cat was on the air. We didn't know.
Oh, I don't like to put the names out of my animals or anything like that. You know, as insane as that sounds, based on experience and being kind of known online, you know, my goal is to give as little of my personal life as possible out there on the air. And if that sounds like paranoid, that's the way it is.
Tell you this, my cat lived to 24 years old, man.
I have 2 cats, and these cats were adopted in Spanish Harlem. They lived through 9/11 with us, and they've been out here with us for since we moved out here in 2001. So they've been through a lot.
No, my cat's lived to 24 years old, man. 23 years old.
Oh.
But he started losing his fur. You know, the bottom line is, you know, people,
what? Wait. What? Your cat had hair loss too? Are you fucking?
Yes, at 23, he started losing his fur.
So what he had? Yeah. He had aged alopecia at the age of 23.
I'm not a veterinarian, but that's what I asked my vet. Why was he losing his hair? That's my first question.
That's
my vet said, "You're lucky he's alive."
That's so typical. I mean, typical. It's so, I guess, ironic that your cat was going bald
at the age of 23, which in human years like 120 or something like that. I'm not really sure. But, you know, let me get back to something really important. I'm really tired of people in message forums creating their own news about Histogen and Adirans, what he can and can't do. You know, it's getting tiring now. I mean, do you agree with that or what?
Well, you know, I agree with it, but also, you know, that's what these platforms are for, and it gives people an opportunity to discuss, you know, openly discuss their concerns and their opinions. The only issue that I have with it is I have been contacted by these companies, and frankly, because of some of the insane negativity that goes on the forums, you know, these companies really don't want to necessarily divulge certain things, you know, interact with, you know, online users. You know, when we started Bald Truth Talk, you know, I had the opportunity to have these cutting edge, you know, these companies doing these cutting edge, working on these cutting edge treatments, come on board, interact with you guys, unlike, you know, ever before. And these guys started to do that, and they get shit. You know, Craig Ziering with Histogen, you know, Naughton, who, you know, I interviewed a couple of times, and she was willing initially to come online and be a part of the forum. And it's like, you know what? It's all hands off now, because they are tired of dealing with the bullshit that some of these guys on the message forums think that they have the right to put out there. You know, just because you're allowed to post, just because we give you the privilege to post on the message forum, doesn't mean that you should be, you know, hiding behind that keyboard and calling people every name under the sun and saying that they're full of shit and saying that they're just out there for the money, or, you know, that these products and services will never come to fruition. You know, there's a saying that I'm a firm believer in: you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. So, you know, if more people were being nice and cordial and behaving reasonably and rationally, I think there'd be a lot more interaction from these bigger companies, including Adirans. Because I will tell you this, Ken Washenik told me himself that the reason he doesn't want to come back on the air is because he doesn't want to basically have his feet put to the fire if he says something that people are going to basically, you know, hold him to on the air. If it, you know, and even if there's certain innuendo or there's a conversation that we decide that we have, there are guys out there that will transcribe my program, pick things apart, and, you know, basically, you know, put misinformation out there, and it's, these guys don't want it. So I think it's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the internet, especially in the hair loss world. And it sucks because I can get this information out to you guys. I can get it out to you guys in a way that no one else can without sounding obnoxious. It's just the way that it is. But now, because of the way that the forum has rolled over the last couple of years, these guys don't want to do it. And who do you blame? You got to blame the users. It's the way it is.
Well, that's definitely true. I have to ask the question to forum, but may I give a quick comment, please, on the Scorpion phone call, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Yes, Scorpion seems to be a very intelligent person. He mentioned
very
on the
smart.
forum.
Very smart.
Very smart. He attempted suicide on multiple occasions. I don't know if you saw that in tonight's chat room. But he seems to try.
I did not. So he actually wrote that he attempted suicide?
Yes, that's what he said in the chat room. Someone identified himself as Scorpion. Said
that's horrible.
Multiple times he attempted suicide.
Scorpion, man, there's no God, there's no reason for that, man. I understand. I understand depression. I understand pain. I come from a family that has suffered depression. I dealt with a dad who has a severe post-traumatic stress syndrome from World War II, that has been on every medication, that has, been misunderstood. So I've seen it in my life, and I just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not necessarily aesthetics. It's not necessarily a full head of hair. There's a lot to life, man, besides being perfect looking. Believe me. But
well, I think Scorpion strives for perfection. I mean, I think he might suffer from body dysmorphia disorder, but he strives for perfection, which is really not possible.
Well, it's not possible, but I think everyone has their own ideal and their idea of perfection. I got to tell you that, as I've gotten older, and to me, it's like I feel great. I feel really good. Listen, I'm no male model or anything like that, and it's never going to happen. But I never really thought about that. It's not something that I ever strive for or thought. I mean, how do you strive for that? It's genetic. But I kind of like live within the parameters of what I've been given, and do the best that I can to enjoy my life. And honestly, life is good. Life is good. Yes, I have to wear a complete can of hairspray. I go through a can of hairspray, I'd say, every 2 weeks. It's insane. And, I have issues with wind, and I still feel a little self-conscious in, really bright sunlight. But for the most part, man, I'm going to say this again, I'm 47 years old. I beat the odds. And people are wasting their lives. These young guys are just suffering, who probably, they just don't need to. They don't realize that you can get hot women, you can enjoy your life, you can be really successful and make a lot of money with a receding hairline. It could happen. And there are options. If you can't deal with it, like Scorpion says, he's willing to wear a piece. That's amazing to me. The fact that a young guy is willing to do it. I know a guy in my personal life who is the most highly functioning guy that I've ever met. The guy became a multimillionaire at a very young age, in his 20s. He married a 10 out of 10, total knockout. Guy wears a piece, and he's just like, it is what it is. He tells people, doesn't make a difference to him. He had to do it because when he looks at himself in the mirror, he wants to feel comfortable in his own skin. He wants to walk out in the street and, know that 99.9% of the people out there don't know that he's wearing a piece. And he's fine with it. He always told the girlfriends that he went out with. So, I admire Scorpion for being willing to do that. And frankly, I think that should be his first option before he has surgery. He says, what do I have to lose? Well, you know what? If you're happy with the piece, you don't have to go through the whole process, the waiting game, the year that it takes for the hair to grow out, the possible shock loss, the, $15,000 it's going to cost you to have a decent hair transplant. You could avoid all that.
$15,000 is nothing. It's nothing.
It is nothing. But for a 25-year-old kid, that's a lot of money.
Not for me, it ain't.
Dude, you're 55 years old. 53.
Getting back to Scorpion, he could never be happy with a hair transplant because he wants perfection. And that's far from it. That's the truth. He could never ever be happy with a hair.
I agree. He wanted me to give him a specific answer, and the truth is, I can't sell a hair transplant. That's not what I do. I created the IHRS and what I do to provide a safer platform for people to make their decisions. But I tell everyone, surgery is your last resort, period. I haven't had surgery. I don't plan on having surgery. And I think, at some point, if I do have surgery, I'm prepared for that. If things don't work out for me and I want to fill in my crown, or if my hairline continues to recede, and, then, maybe I will have surgery. But I know what I'm getting into. I've been doing this for a long time. And I avoided it for a long time. So, I just think he's too young, and I think that he may regret it in the end. Even if it works out for the next 5 years, it may be something that he says to himself, once he gets past what he's dealing with, he may say to himself, shit, why did I do that? You know, I would have been fine without it. So.
Well, we just say one thing quickly. I have a question for Sharon, if you don't mind. My nephew's 20 years old, as you know, and he's really losing it. He wants to see a dermatologist without consulting me. Okay? This cat wants to put 4,000 grafts in his crown. A 20-year-old kid, you believe it?
I believe it. I think a lot of guys want that. You know, a lot of guys, they see what the results are. They go to Bald Truth Talk or other forums, and they see what could be achieved, and a lot can be achieved if you're the right candidate and you have, you know, the surgeon has a good day, and, you know, everything, you know, all the stars are aligned. Then, you know, some of these before and after outcomes are just, I mean, they're mind blowing. Look at a guy like you look at a guy like Joe Tillman, who, you know, for whatever reason, you're not that impressed, Joe. But the truth is, this guy was a full Norwood 6. You see him in person, it's mind blowing to think how severe his hair loss was to where he looks today, you know, and to how he looks today, and the fact that he had 2 prior fucked up procedures. So, to me, when I look at this guy, it's amazing. And I got to tell you, Joe, if you saw him in person, I swear to you, you would be impressed, for sure. So I don't know why you kind of give him a little grief, you know, out there online, or at least on the show, because the guy looks great.
But get back to my nephew. He wants to put 4,000 grafts in his crown. That's like almost 3/4 of his donor area. What happens when he becomes a full-blown 0-6? He'll be a freak. True or false?
He'd be a guy that looks like he had a target implanted onto his head. I know a guy that went to a very well-known, famous Toronto hair transplant surgeon. And this guy contacted me early on in my career. He was a friend of my consigliere, Raphael, who I had on the program, and my friend since I was a kid. And the guy actually asked me what I thought he should do, because he wanted to have his crown filled. And I said, dude, if you do that, it's basically going to be like a target, a reverse target. You're going to have a whole, like, you know, of implanted grafts, and then you're going to have like a moat around those grafts. And you know what? He didn't take my advice. He had it done. You know what he looks like today?
What?
Everything else recessed. He receded, you know, completely around that bald spot. He's got this filled-in crown of hair and no hair around it. It's freakish.
Because his donor area is exhausted?
It's exhausted. He actually ended up with a pretty diffused hair loss. He lost some of the grafts that were implanted, but, you know, and there were actually mini micros at the time. I told him not to go to this guy, but anyway, he didn't listen to me. That's what he lives with, so.
Well, one quick question, Sharon. I'm going to give the callers. Boston Baldy, if you don't mind, I want you to comment on some of the claims Dr. Cole's been making, you know. Some pretty dramatic claims recently.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Say that again.
Dr. Cole, Boston Baldy wanted me to ask you about Dr. Cole. As you know, he's been making some dramatic claims lately about what he's doing with donor regeneration.
What claims are you referring to specifically?
Well, that he's regenerating 60 to 7% of the donor area. You know, he's having fantastic results with PRP and all kinds of things. I'm not saying it's true or false.
I'll tell you this. I love John Cole. I think he's a funny guy. He's a fun guy to drink with. He's a very he has a lot of diverse interests. He's a really actually a very accomplished fisherman. Most people don't realize that. He's an interesting guy. And I think he's a really good hair transplant surgeon. He believes in what he does. He does his best for his patients. I also believe, and obviously he's an accepted IHS member for the last 11 some odd years. I mean, he's a guy that I put my faith in, and I know provides top-notch results. I also think that he is sometimes a little overzealous online, and I do know that he's really trying to do whatever he can to kind of get hair transplantation to the next level. I have not seen personally any of his patients with any type of hair follicle regeneration, donor regeneration. he has mentioned it to me briefly, but he's never gotten really involved in it in a conversation with me. So at this point, it's a little difficult for me to believe that he is getting 70% donor regeneration because I haven't seen it. With that said, again, I think he's a great doctor, and I would love for him to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Spence, I want you to come down to Atlanta and check this out," because I will, of course. I'd love to see it happening. Now, I don't know if it's because of all the pressure that's happening, like what's happening with Go and Go. There's so much talk online about that. I know that John wanted to go and see Dr. Go, but that never transpired. So he's kind of like maybe reinventing the wheel, and he's seeing some results for himself with the use of A-cell. I don't know. I see exactly what you guys see online. I have never met or spoken with a patient who has claimed to have donor regeneration. So as far as I'm concerned, until I see it, it's difficult to say that yes, in fact, John Cole is getting this. You know what I'm saying?
No, I definitely understand that. But the chat room wanted you to comment on what you thought of his claims. But donor regeneration.
I have a lot of respect for John, so I'm not going to say that he's stepping out of bounds here. And if he's claiming that this is happening, then I think there's a chance that he believes. There's a good chance that he obviously believes that it is happening. I think until we actually see the data, and until there's a paper published, and until I see it, I cannot say that what he's claiming is factual. How's that for being diplomatic?
Okay, he's also, making big claims on his success, with body hair transplants. He's making beard hair transplants.
No, I will tell you that John he's one of the first, man. He is a true pioneer. When Ray Woods contacted me in 1998 to try to get his technique out to the masses, John Cole was one of the first guys to embrace that idea. John Cole was one of the first guys to spend hours on the phone with me trying to figure out what Ray Woods was doing, because Ray would not share any information about his technique with anybody because he wanted to sell it. At least that's what he was telling me. He wanted to charge a fee for it, and because he invested so much money. He said that he invested over $1 million in developing the technique, and I guess I get that, but the thing is, guys were not willing to pay for it. That kind of fell apart, and John himself had to kind of recreate the wheel. So him and I spent a lot of time. So I have a lot of respect for the fact that he went that extra mile and he did whatever he could. But as far as the claims that he's making today, until I see it, I just can't agree with it.
You see, you won't believe it, right? One more.
But listen, again, it doesn't. The fact of the matter is, just because he's an IHS member, just because I think he's doing great hair transplants, it doesn't mean that I'm going to take anybody's word as the gospel. That's just the way that I operate, and I think that it would be unfair to the consumer to say, "Oh yeah, John Cole's part of the IHS, so whatever he says goes." It may be true, but until I see it, I can't say it is.
Yeah. One final question from the chat room. As you know, Aripasol is entering phase 2 trials. Arista wants to know, have you spoken to David Hall, or are you going to interview him about his phase 2 trials?
I will interview him. I have not spoken to him in a while. I see him online all the time. Him and I are kind of Skype friends. Every once in a while, we just say hello to see how we're doing, how each other is doing. I will contact him for sure and get him on the air. Again, I don't think he's a guy that wants to come on the air live, which is, it's fucking unfortunate. And it's because of all the bullshit that's being put out there online. You have to understand that, we're all human beings. Even these guys that are working on these, potential treatments or cures for hair loss, they're people that when they read this stuff, especially when they're being talked about online, it affects them. And they don't want to be put into the crosshairs. They don't want to be out there as fodder for, some of the bullshit that goes on the message forums. I get that. I put my neck on the line all the time just by being out there. So I'm kind of used to it. I've developed a thick skin. These guys haven't. So whatever we decide to do, I'm sure it's going to be a recorded interview. And I think that's unfortunate because I would love for you guys to have the opportunity to speak with this guy directly, to speak with a principal of this company directly. I don't think that's going to be happening. And I really, again, it's your fault. So to answer everyone's question, yeah, I'll definitely have him back on the air, but it's probably going to be recorded.
Well, just one final quick thing. The reason why Ken was sharing, well, come on, he's gone on TV shows for years, national news programs, everything else, saying a cure is around the corner. So this is going on for years.
But it's a little different, though. You have to realize that most of these shows are pre-recorded. You're dealing with the mainstream media that doesn't know shit about hair loss. There's no concern about people calling into the show or calling into those broadcasts, asking some of the specific, well thought out, well researched questions that you find on the message forums. When you're dealing with the mainstream media, it's sad to say, and maybe this isn't politically correct, and maybe this will end up, burning me in the, as far as getting certain interviews, but most of these guys are idiots. I'm interviewed all the time. I was just recently interviewed by the BBC. I was interviewed by a really well-known blog today. And the questions that these people ask, it's fucking mind-blowing. I'm thinking to myself, we were living in the internet age. Take the fucking time to do a little due diligence. Read what's being written about out there, that's being communicated about out there, and then come to me and ask me some questions. It's like I'm like in a fucking time warp. Like I'm back in 1989 when I hear some of the questions that are being posed to me by these mainstream journalists. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Listen, I got to take another break, guys. Phone number 718-717-2200. I actually have to plug in my computer. 718-717-2200. Give me a call here at The Bald Truth. If you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, just need to vent. Again, let me apologize for my lack of studio. Basically, just doing my program from my laptop in my home. And hopefully, you guys are enjoying the broadcast. I am planning on being completely up and running by next week. It may not happen. I'm having some, there's a lot of information, but some low frequency sound issues from my new studio, from the room that I'm building my new studio in. So I may have to actually do a little bit more soundproofing, which can take some time, but we'll see. If not, we're still going to be live from my billiards room here in Los Angeles, California. Andrew, are you there, by the way?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, man, let's take a break. Phone number 718-717-2200. 718-717-2200. If you're watching and listening to The Bald Truth, will be right back after this brief break. Stay with us.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. 718-717-2200. That's 718-717-2200. This is the GFQ Skype line or direct line for GFQ. As you can tell, if you're new to the program or if you know the program, I'm not in my studio tonight. I'm Spencer Kobren. This is The Bald Truth, self-help radio for guys, and of course for girls who get it. This microphone's not even working. It's like a prop at this point because it didn't work with my laptop. So you are hearing me basically through my laptop microphone and just seeing me through a webcam in my billiards room here in Los Angeles. So look, it's still the Hair Loss Show. I'm still here to help you. I'm still the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and a guy who's been dealing with hair loss since the age of 21 and understands this industry probably better than anyone in the world. And that, not to sound obnoxious, the truth is most people in the industry itself will not tell you how fucked up this industry really is. It's a $3.5 billion a year industry. 99% of all products and services just do not work. Jesus, I'm really close to that camera. There is, so many people out there waking up, 200,000 waking up every day for the first time, realizing that they're losing their hair And they are just, where are they turning? They're turning to the internet. They're turning to still the yellow pages, the infomercials. They're buying all kinds of shit that will never help them. And we buy this crap because we're so desperate to do anything to stop this silent epidemic of biblical proportions, to stop this cancer of the spirit that affects just about every aspect of our lives. And listen, when I say cancer of the spirit, hair loss is not cancer. Believe me, I get that. Now my lighting's too bright because the sun is going down. But anyway, I get that. I'm not comparing hair loss to cancer, but it does erode our spirits. It is something that affects our lives in ways that people who aren't dealing with hair loss could never, ever imagine. Young guys and girls who start to go through the initial throes of hair loss are changed forever. Looks like I'm having some problems with Skype here. Andrew, am I still on the air?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Unless you're dealing with the hair loss, you just don't know. So when people are just like, hey, you know what? Fuck it. It's no big deal. Shave your head. It is a big deal. It affects us. Now, I talk about shaving your head. I say, it's probably your best line of attack when it comes to hair loss. It's probably it should be your first line of attack if you can deal with it. If you're equipped to deal with hair loss, that's the way to go, because trying to save your hair, taking medications to save your hair, going for surgical hair restoration, wearing a hairpiece, it's all a very stressful situation. It's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Well, that's not true. At this stage of my life, maybe I would. Horrible to say, but there's a lot of bad people in this world. But, I deal with guys and I speak with guys they're so desperate, they're so hurt, they feel like their lives are over. And I'm here to tell you, no matter what you believe, even Scorpion, who sounds very good, by the way, I'm glad that he called, that there is life after hair loss. There are ways to figure it out. There are ways to be comfortable in your own skin. Believe me, I would love to be able to comb my hair straight back like Andrew Zarian. I would go up 2 points in the point scale as far as my appearance. But you know what? This is the way I wear my hair. I still have hair on my head. This is the way I have to wear my hair to kind of make myself feel comfortable. Today it's ultra bizarre because the camera is just so close to me, but it is what it is. But I figured out a way to live a very fulfilling life, even with a quasi comb over, even with the fact that I have to paint my head, even with my movement disorder, which you guys will probably notice, my twitching and all the stuff that I deal with. Because, what I figured out in my life is that, well, everyone thinks we're being judged by our appearance, and we are, to some extent, for sure. And first impressions mean a lot. The bottom line is people want to be around you because of how you make them feel. And that's something that most young guys just don't get. In the long run, hot women, or who you consider attractive women, want to be around you because of the way you make them feel, not because of the way you look. Initially, yes, there's no doubt. You walk into a club, if you got a receding hairline, or if you are just not rocking it the way that you think that you should, and women aren't feeling you, that's just the way that it is. But eventually, you can get those women who weren't feeling you initially, and then they'll be like, wait a second, why didn't I find this guy attractive? (718-717-2200). Give us a call. We have a few minutes left, about 20 some odd minutes left for the broadcast. Andrew, I'm noticing that now that the sun is going down, my lighting is getting much brighter. Is it affecting anything?
You look great. You look great.
All right. So you were a guy that ended up getting married at a young age.
I did, yeah.
So you're out of the fucking game.
I've been out of the game for some time, yeah.
So, I mean, what is it like? I mean, because I look, I'm still not married, but I mean, I've been out of the game for, I guess, 14 years, but I didn't get out of the game until I was about 35 years old. So I can't even imagine, like, I mean, is it a relief for you that you're out of the game? Is the fact that you think you're losing your hair less devastating because, you know, you kind of locked one in?
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about that, and I was talking to one of my friends about that recently. One of my closest friends, it's a female, and we went out for dinner, and I was thinking, I'm like, you know, I don't even know how to behave anymore if I were to go on a date, because the last time I was single, I was still a kid.
Yes.
So I don't even know, like, proper do's and don'ts of like dating. I'm really uncomfortable with ordering my own food. Like the menu's way too much to deal with, so I would have her order for me. It's like this weird thing.
That's very funny. So your wife basically, she takes the reins and everything.
I'm like, I can't. I'll look at the menu and I'm like, I can't deal with this. You gotta figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, women who you're dating don't dig that. So
No.
I mean, you would have to completely change the way that you operate. That's tough, man. I don't know. Listen, honestly, I don't know if I can deal with it at this point. Like I always say that if common law leaves me or dies, God forbid, that there's a good chance I would end up with like some Asian or Russian mail order bride. It's just easy. Deal with that for a couple of years and move on to the next one.
It has to be difficult. No, and I'll tell you, you know, I know a couple of my buddies. They're still single. They're in their early 30s, and some of them have a really thinned out hairline, and it's difficult for them. And I notice it. I mean, the guys that have more hair are, you know, I'm not saying they're going out with every date is successful, but they have a higher success rate than the other guys. And perfect example, someone you know, when I hooked them up on a date with a good-looking girl that has her own issues to begin with. I mean, she has her own thing going on. And she turned around. She goes, "I can't. He's an unbelievable guy, but I can't date him." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's his hair."
It's so fucked up. Listen, it's true. There's no doubt about it. But it's also, and I know the guy you're talking about. It's also the way that he's rocking his hair. He's a good-looking dude. I really think that if he completely just let it go, stop trying to hold on to what he has at this point, shaved it down, maybe. He's in good shape, but maybe got a little bit more buff and just went for it. Maybe grow goatee or something. He's a good-looking dude.
Great-looking guy. Yeah, great.
He can definitely pull a lot of women with a completely shaved head. So, but yeah, there are women like I know who you're talking about, like that woman who, for whatever reason, can't get past that. But she has to understand she's not getting any younger, and just about every guy that she decides to end up with will eventually go bald.
Yeah, and you know what? She's having a very difficult time finding a guy to begin with. You know, like a decent guy.
She's not going to do it.
She's almost 30. It's almost over for her. And I told her that. I'm like, you know what? He could always shave his head. You're going up there. You're coming close to 30, and it's downhill after that for you.
The common law is only 4 years older than that, and I've never been with a woman this old. So I'm not that, listen, I'm totally in love with this woman, but the truth is when guys start, like if I was to go out dating again, there's a good chance that I probably wouldn't go past, the 34-year-old or 33-year-old age bracket. So when a woman gets to be the age of 30, there is something to be said about guys her own age wanting to date her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not as common as I think a lot of women would like. That's just the way of the world, man. Is that misogynistic or is that
no, not at all.
To say?
Not at all.
I mean, if you were single at this point, would you date someone who's 30 years old?
No way.
And it's not that she's old. It's just that you want, you're still in a position where you can get someone who's 20.
I need someone that hasn't made up their own opinions yet.
Yeah, you want someone you can completely brainwash.
Yeah, like deal with my shit. Like it takes a lot to deal with me. And I'm a very difficult person. Like, if Jess wasn't 19 when we started dating, there's no issue would be with me. No way.
Well, if common law wasn't 4 when I graduated from high school, there's no way that she'd be with me. So,
listen, we all have our vices.
That's terrible. When I think about that age gap, it's pretty insane.
Hey, you got a caller, by the way, Spence. I don't know if you want to go to it.
All right, let's take a call.
Call, you on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Spencer,
Who's this?
it's Marcus.
Marcus, man. What's happening, bro?
I'll tell you what, the reason I called is because I went to thebaldtruth.com to watch the show, and I see this guy. He kind of looks like you, kind of sounds like you, but Spence, man, it's this fair-skinned guy. He looks like he's sitting in Bermuda someplace with a lithograph of the Rat Pack behind him. I mean, seriously, if he had a suit and tie on, he'd be in Justin Timberlake's band, because it even says Justin TV in the upper right-hand corner.
Well, that's very kind of you, man. I appreciate that. That's me.
What is
This is me
on,
with a
man?
camera close on my face.
It's really, it is really you. It's not an imposter.
It is. It's not an imposter. It's me. It's a young Spence.
Oh, beautiful. Just beautiful. So
No,
check it out.
I appreciate that. You're the second guy that said that. I don't know what, I think it's just I'm on a webcam, so I look, it's like right in my face.
It's great. It's just excellent. Hey, point number 2 for calling. It was 20 years ago today, not quite, but this is when my life took a fatal turn. It was right after the first attack on the World Trade Center, which I consider sort of my own personal 9/11. And it's funny because now that I've got the rear view of 20 years, I can take stock. And, honestly, guys, not much has really happened in 20 years in hair loss.
Well, the one thing that happened was finasteride.
No question. I was going to get to that.
That was a big one.
Definitely. I was going to get to that bullet list. But there have been refinements in the hair transplant technique. Don't get me wrong either. But in the main scope of things, we do not have a cure, and the treatments are limited, but some can be very effective, no doubt about it. I've just had to basically accept, when I think about how I've lived my life the last couple decades, that, sometimes I probably spend too much under a hat. In fact, now that it's winter, it's funny. I have this one cap, and it's made of, this is no lie, it's made of mohair. I mean, just think of,
yeah,
the metaphor there.
Yeah.
I
love
you
mohair.
walk around with it. I do too. But it's almost like wearing a wig, man, because the stuff sort of is kind of nappy and everything else. It's kind of cool.
It could be itchy, yeah.
A little bit, but it has this lining in it, so it's the itchy thing doesn't happen. But I have to recognize that some days I compromise and I buckle to the point where I have decided that delusion is better than depression.
You know what? I think that's a fucking great bumper sticker, man. Absolutely. Delusion is greater than depression. It's better than depression, for sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with finding a way, and I say this all the time, to feel comfortable in your own skin. Even if you're deluding yourself a little bit, if you're able to delude yourself, I think for the most part, you're able to kind of fool the rest of the world, the people who are looking at you and who are part of your life. It's not so bad as long as you can enjoy the moment. And a lot of guys just can't do that.
Exactly. But you have to do what you got to do. I mean, if you're not bulletproof with your mentality, it's going to eat you up, consume you to the point where if you do tilt towards depression and then sink into it, that's worse than hair loss, man.
Absolutely.
Because even if you do then put a wig or get hair back on your head, you don't know if you'll be able to escape that organic reality.
Well, you know what happens, even when guys go into such a dark place and then they get fixed, so to speak, or wear the wig or whatever it is, they almost become prisoners of that solution, and they can't open themselves up to other people, and it becomes as bad, if not worse.
You said it. So here's what else I've come to realize, that if I could take that moment over, I would not do transplant. I'm convinced that I have found a system low these many years that would have either prevented hair loss or significantly delayed the onset of it. And so for any of the young bucks out there who are thinking,
PRP.
Well, no, it's a four-step. It's got four pillars to it. Let's put it that way. And the first one is clearly nutrition. And I'm not saying saw palmetto is gonna keep hair on your head, but I'm convinced that a combination of anti-inflammatories and the low GI, that low glycemic index diet, I'm telling you, it's a buffer, and especially sugar, man. Seriously, white sugar is almost poison, especially if you're taking
Marcus,
it in everything
you read
and
the ball.
anything.
You probably read the Ball of Truth years ago. I mean, people thought I was nuts when I wrote that chapter. When I asked Barry Shears to write a couple of pages for my book, and I'm a firm believer of really following a low glycemic index diet. And for years I did. Listen, I drink. I will go out and have pizza, whatever it is, and sometimes I overeat. But for the most part, I would say 5 out of 7 days I am following a low glycemic index diet, and I firmly believe that has helped me maintain the hair that I have for the last 20 years, for sure.
No question. Unfortunately, I did not read that book, Spencer, because I was a sugar junkie up until about 2000, 2001, 2002. I mean, sugar was my thing, and especially vegetarians I've noticed, because I've been a vegan for the most part. Vegans and vegetarians, they carve out, they sugar up in a massive way.
They do.
Even if you put the name carob on it or something, they think, oh, carob, it's natural. I'm telling you, that stuff is just spiking the blood.
That's right.
So, I mean, those two are really key.
40-30-30, that's the way to go. And it really does make a difference. And and it's interesting, you've been a fan of the show for a long time. You never read the book. That's wild. So I guess you didn't. I had an entire chapter on the sugar balancing diet.
Well, once again, you're way ahead of your time. And in terms of the anti-inflammatories, guys, man, I'm serious, man. The herbs that are out there, like rosemary and turmeric especially, that's the king of them. Ginger's another one. In fact, to me, my medical plan, forget Obamacare, my medical plan is basically God's ginger and girls. It's the 3 Gs.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that does better than anything else. Okay, secondly, you got to get on some agent, whether it's Propecia or PRP, or whatever the next is. It's critical.
So let me ask you, when's the last time you had PRP?
It's been about a year, and I'm thinking about juicing it again.
Joe Greco contacted me to show me some really impressive results that they're getting with alopecia areata. And there's no doubt in my mind, I don't care what's being written on the forums. The couple of guys who are embittered because they didn't do well with PRP. There's no doubt in my mind that it's working for people, and that it's working in cases that we thought could never be helped. Scarring alopecias, alopecia areata, alopecia universalis. So there's no doubt that it does something.
You know what? It's been on my calendar to give the guy a call. I just haven't been able to get down to FLA recently. The travels I've taken have not been going in that direction, but I want to do it. And I have found something that sort of mimics PRP, but I'll leave that for the last part. Third, guys, you got to do some aerobics, man, 3 times a week. I'm telling you, even if it's just 20 minutes, and there's plenty of literature out there in terms of how that reacts with DHT and so forth. It's a buffer. It just helps to retard the process. And lastly, here's something I've kind of stumbled into in about the last 2 years, because I was with this girl and she just swore by it, and she proved it to me. Let's just put it that way. And that is some form of yoga or meditation. And especially yoga. I tell you now, some of these like Bikrams, and you don't have to go to the studio and jump in a sauna and sweat while you do the stretches. You can do the stuff at home or whatnot. I'm telling you, some of these yoga poses, and I'm only doing it like twice a week, it's almost like getting a little miniature PRP treatment in terms of the hair looks like it has just a little volumizer.
Dude, I'm telling you, this is weird. I actually purchased an infrared sauna about 6 years ago. And I go in there and I stretch in the sauna. I'm not doing yoga, but I'm stretching and doing my thing. I'm in there for 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. I don't want to overdo it. And there's no doubt that I have felt the health benefits as well, in my view, as the hair benefits. I don't talk about that much. I don't write about it, but it's something to me, having that sweat and having that infrared, and it is radiation, but it's infrared, infrared bulbs. It has, I think, improved my health. And listen, I'm a guy that likes to drink, a guy that likes to go out and eat and do my thing. But for the most part, I try to live a reasonably healthy existence, even though I will fall off and like I'm drinking tonight. But there's no doubt, I'm almost 50 years old. There's no doubt in my mind that has contributed to the fact that I've saved a lot of hair. So guys don't believe that. They just want to take the drugs. They want to get a hair transplant. They don't want to put the work into it.
No, you know what? You can tell. In fact, one person even mentioned it to me, a neighbor, like, oh, are you using some kind of shampoo or something on your hair? Because, I'm very challenged, man. I mean, my stuff is thin out all over. But, for that to happen, the only thing that was really the variable was that I had been hitting some of these yoga poses. And I'm telling you, it gives you like just a little bit of a hair lift. And it's nice. And it's good for you on top of that. It helps with your lymphatic system.
Your skin. The one thing that I get all the time is about my skin. It really improves the tone, the general structure, the look, and there are times when I'm not exercising, I'm not eating right, and I see like the deeper wrinkles, like just basically depression's coming back. And then as soon as I get back into it, I notice that it just seems everything's more supple. So there's no doubt in my mind, man. Guys, they think it's like, some sort of California hocus pocus or whatever. The truth is this stuff really works.
It does. And you know what? In order to hold some of these positions, you literally have to be centered, because if you're slightly off-centered, you're going to topple over. And what that does also is it just chills you out to the point where it makes it harder to think stupid, negative BS.
That's right, man. That is absolutely right, man. And that's what, there's a lot of guys, and some guys actually frequent our forum, who I know they're sitting there in front of their computer suffering, thinking about this stuff, letting it fester, instead of figuring out a way to kind of occupy their time in their minds. And, there are guys out there that believe that, okay, if I'm occupying my time, I'm doing other things, it's not changing the reality of my hair loss. It's not changing the reality of the fact that I'm not looking as great as I like to look. But you know what? If you're not thinking about it, if you are able to somehow separate yourself from that stuff, it becomes less real. It becomes less of an issue. And you start to realize that people react to you differently. And I'm a firm believer, man, if you can somehow get your mind straight, people become much more attracted to you. They don't want to deal with the negativity. They don't want to deal with your depression. They don't want to deal with your insecurities. If you can show that you're secure with yourself, you're cool with yourself, you're comfortable with yourself, you are doing things in your life, and a lot of that has to do with occupying your mind, then people are more attracted to you. And you're a fucking prime example. You've been through how many surgeries?
Oh God, half a dozen plus. Probably. I stopped counting. It's probably like 8 or 9. It would have depressed me to keep counting them. But
yeah,
but moreover,
and you've been fucked up. You've been fucked up countless times. And you're out there. You're in your 50s now. You're screwing young women, having a great time in your life. What's happening recently in your sex life?
Well, hold on. I want to say one thing about what you just mentioned. Moreover, when you do these kinds of disciplines, you physically, literally become more attractive. I'm telling you, as you're just saying, your skin is more supple, you're more relaxed, and people react to that. They see it. And furthermore, then what happens is you become more attractive, you attract more people, and then you get more attractive still. And it's similar in a sense to research that's been done about the difference of people who eat alone versus those who have like the family sit-down dinner. And people who eat in social settings, their digestion is far superior than those who don't.
That's interesting. Yeah.
How else can you explain this? It's just simply because we're creatures of touch. We're tactile. We're sensuous. And you got to have that contact. In terms of the sex world, man, I got to tell you, okay, honestly, the last couple months, I may have made a dozen approaches. And you know what? I got rejected by the majority of them, by probably 10 of them, but 2 of them came through. And
I love
both
that
of them, both of them, I was kind of just being a dick. Like on one, I'll relate to you, and that'll be it. We'll close it.
Sure.
I was heading out to Beeland, to Brooklyn, and I took the subway. I like to take the subway downtown or out to the boroughs, and then I take a taxi back because I like the nighttime ride back. But the subway is generally faster. Anyways, I'm on the subway, and seriously, Spence, I see this woman that every guy was looking at. On any scale, she was at least a 9, all right? And in my book, this girl was 10. So there she is, and she's just up to the max in clothing and everything else. Beautiful woman. And so all these guys are ogling her. I tried to ignore. And we both got off at the same station. And I just went right up and said, you know what? You're either coming from or going to a client. You know, because that's just how maxed she looked. And it was funny. She sort of like smirked, and I told her, you know, hey, I'm going to this event, blah 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 blah. So she came along, and frankly, nothing has really materialized between the two of us yet. But it was a nice evening with a great companion, and if nothing else, people were looking at me like, yo, dude, how are you rolling with this? You know, and frankly, we're not an item, we're not a couple or anything. But it was still, as I said, it was a great night just to have her present.
Well, and eventually the fact that you made that, you know, that headway, you know, you could be. And I tell guys this all the time, man. Listen, I don't want to be rejected by 4s and 5s. I always went for the hottest chicks because I knew, you know, if I got rejected, I didn't feel that bad because there were 9s and 10s. But there was always the 9s or the 10s that said, you know what? For whatever reason, they like this guy. And I got that. And you have to have balls. You have nothing to lose in this life. Guys are so insecure. And, you know, guys that I grew up with, they ended up marrying, you know, I mean, just messes because these are the only girls that they felt would end up, you know, being attracted to them. And I think it's unfortunate. I really do. I think you've got to have balls. You got to realize that there's a pot for every, there's a lid for every pot. And if you work hard enough and just give it a shot, that, you know, it's a numbers game. And that's why I admire you, man. I really do. You are a guy that's been through the mill. These young guys can never imagine what you've been through. And you still screw cocktail waitresses 2 at a time. So,
well, this girl, I'm convinced is a you know, a professional in the trade. Because, man,
well, you know what? So what?
Exactly.
You still had the balls to go up to her on a fucking subway and try to chat her up. That is, you know, that takes balls. You have to have charisma and confidence to do that. And for a guy that's been through what you've been through, that to me, that just shows these young guys that anything is possible. You have a receding hairline. You've had fucking 20 surgeries. You know what I mean? And you still do this. I mean, that is the way that you need to be in life.
Oh, you have to. You have to be audacious. Because, you know, my feeling is just, I'd rather shoot myself in the foot while trying to raise the barrel and aim high than just to, you know,
That's
keep
right.
my powder dry.
Marcus, man, I always appreciate the call. It's so great to hear from you. You know what? You know, we've never met in person, and you know, the next time I'm in New York, I would love for you and Andrew and all of us, you know, Joe from Staten Island, to get together maybe at Carmine's or something and have a nice dinner. All right?
No, I'll tell you what. We'll go to like the Alewife, and then we'll you know, Alewife and brew. We'll do some microbreweries. Right. Then we'll do your sit down steak, and then we'll roll a club or something.
All right, man. Well, listen, yeah, I'm gonna sign off, man. Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you. Peace to everybody. Bye.
Take it easy. Andrew, man, that is a guy that is, I mean, these kids have no idea. You're talking about scalp reductions, multiple surgeries, and he's still, the guy's like, he's a few years older than me, but maybe 51 or something like that, still banging, you know, 25-year-olds.
Yeah, look at his attitude. I mean, he has a great attitude.
That's right. You know, and I tell all these kids, you know, I mean, you have no idea what life is about, how you can get through these, difficulties in life, and people have far worse than what we're dealing with, and they get through it, and they're with, beautiful women. You know who has, I think, the most difficult time in life? Ugly women, unattractive women, ugly women. They really have it worse than any unattractive guy.
Yeah, you could be an ugly guy and get with a really good-looking girl. Nobody says anything. If you're an ugly broad and you start dating a good-looking guy, instantly people saying, "What the hell's going on here?"
Or what about a balding broad? What about a girl who's 20 years old, started birth control, at 19, and dealing with androgenetic alopecia? How many guys are going to go for that? I mean, that's a tough situation. Now, there are beautiful women out there wearing wigs and whatever it is who are afraid to date because they don't want to divulge the fact that they're wearing hair to a guy because they're afraid of how
but again, it's still somewhat in this bizarre world socially acceptable for a girl to be wearing extensions and to be wearing fake hair than it is for a guy. I mean, and that's the biggest double standard that exists.
You can hardly tell. If a girl wears a really expensive wig, you're not going to be able to tell. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. But she still has to take it off, or she still has to
but think about hair. Think about hair extensions. I mean, think about what you're doing. You're attaching fake hair to your real hair, and nobody says a thing about that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
you could go out there. You could go out there.
Do that,
yeah. Oh God,
I would be crucified.
But can you imagine? I mean, a girl could go out there, put on someone else's face, put on eyelashes, put on. Tie a thing around their stomachs so it sucks everything in, and wears a push-up bra and puts on fake hair. That's perfectly fine. But the second a guy puts on a piece, everybody's looking at that guy and pointing their fingers at him. It's like, oh, that guy's wearing a piece.
Yeah, it's actually there's the double standard is ridiculous, and I talk about that all the time. And you're right about that. I mean, women are not who they portray themselves. From the age of 13 or 14 years old, you will never see a woman who looks like she looked. This is all I got. This is me. I could either grow my goatee or shave it. I have no other looks.
Yeah.
This is all. I can't wear makeup. This is all I have. There's nothing. I can't improve this. This is it.
You could go on 4 dates with the same girl, and every date she will look like someone else.
That's right. So it is such bullshit that these women cannot deal, or the way they, and you hear them, you'll see stuff like on online dating sites, the guy must have a full head of hair, or women talk about guys who wear hair pieces in a derogatory fashion. I think to myself, you guys are completely fucking phony.
I had this discussion with one of my female friends, and I'm still congested, so if I sound weird, that's why. But I was talking to her about this, and I asked her what she thinks about guys that don't have, that have thinning hair. And she goes, it doesn't bother me if they shave their head. I'm like, how about if a guy's wearing a hairpiece? He goes, oh, that's ridiculous. And I looked at her and go, you're wearing hair extensions right now. You have fake eyelashes glued to your eyelid. You have 5 pounds of makeup on your face, and you're wearing a push-up bra, and you're looking at this poor guy that wants some hair on his head, and you're saying that looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. They probably have silicone orbs, surgically implanted into their bodies, fake teeth, fake tans, fake eyelashes, or at least tinted eyelashes. There's not a woman past the age of 12 or 13 that doesn't dye their hair, so they don't really look the way that they look. The whole standard is just the double standard is fucking ridiculous. And I'm hoping, I've been trying to do this for the last 15 years to change that to some degree. But, I'm a guy who's almost 50 years old. I speak to people who are my contemporaries, and still, women who are my age still say the same shit. They'd rather their men shave their head than wear a hairpiece or, do something that's artificial. And these girls have 5 pounds of makeup on. They haven't seen the light of day without fucking spackle on their face since 1975, and they are concerned if somebody wears a hairpiece. It's insane.
Let me ask you this, Spence. Do you think, and I've seen this, that even with guys that get hair transplants, there's still a negative stigma that a guy went and did something cosmetically, and especially the hair, because that's a sensitive thing?
Yes, I would say that, I'm getting involved in the mainstream world of cosmetic surgery, and you know what I'm doing. And a guy can get a nose job, a guy can get a chin implant or whatever, they can get their teeth fixed. But if a guy gets a hair transplant, there's something fucked up about him. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the guy, you can get a more invasive surgery as a guy, but you can't do anything about your hair. I don't fucking understand that. I really don't. Now, yes, it's less accepted for men to have any type of cosmetic surgery, but when it comes to hair, it's like, I don't know why there's such a taboo. I think maybe, some of it has to do with the fact that it used to be such a bad thing. Hair transplants, people think about it. They equate hair transplants with plugs. They equate hair restoration with wigs. They don't really think about what is being accomplished today. So,
I also think it's the media too. The media has kind of made us think a certain way about certain stuff when it comes to cosmetic surgery. But I'll give you another example, and then I know you got to wrap it up. I went out to. I actually sent you a picture of this guy. I don't know if you saw it. The poor guy with the comb over.
Let's see it now.
Should be in your.
Yeah. That's right.
So I was sitting at dinner, and this poor guy comes in here, older guy. He was a gay guy. He was with his husband or boyfriend, and this guy had the worst comb over I've ever. I mean, it was bad. He wasn't fooling anybody, and I'm sure he hasn't fooled anybody for about 30 years. And this poor guy's hanging on. I mean, he wants to hang on to his hair. Why not just get a piece? I mean, at that point, why not?
Why doesn't Joe from Staten Island get a piece? It's a stigma of wearing a hairpiece. It's because society doesn't allow hair loss sufferers to wear hair because, the industry fucked up the whole situation. The industry made really bad hairpieces. The industry sold guys, in my view, systems like the Hair Club for Men, these other systems that, were not great. Now, I think Hair Club for Men has evolved. They've gotten better. But the truth is, the stuff that's out there, for the most part, still looks like wigs. And the guys that are wearing really good hair pieces, nobody knows. So the guys that are buying their stuff from like coolpiece.com or Top Lace or Hair Direct, who are buying, like a hair piece that's like 50% density. So when the guy wears it, it looks like he has thinning hair. People can't tell because it doesn't look like a wig.
But I mean, but let's say you get a shitty piece. I mean, yeah, let's say you get one of those hair club stuff. Wouldn't you rather wear that than to have this comb over your head and it's like the emperor's, without clothes?
I would.
You're not fooling anybody. Sure. Everybody sees right through it.
I would for sure. It's not that they're trying to fool somebody, but in their minds, when they look at themselves in the mirror, and they comb that hair over, they're framing their face so they feel more comfortable. I don't think they're trying to fool people into thinking that they have more hair than they actually have. They're just trying to somehow make themselves appear to be more attractive. And in their minds, because of the hair that's, framing their face, that's what's happening. I don't think they think that they're fooling people into thinking that they have a full head of hair. So I think that's a misconception as well. It's sad. The whole situation is sad. And I wish that hair pieces didn't have the stigma that they have because guys like Joe from Staten Island would be able to move on and have a much better life. I look at a young guy like Scorpion, who thank God is still around, and I kind of knew that he was, and I'm glad that he called the show because he sounds good. The fact that he's like, well, what about a hairpiece, Spencer? The fact that a young guy like that is asking about a hairpiece, that gives me hope that there are other guys out there that realize that if they just want to look good, there is an option out there. And if they're willing to divulge that to their significant others and they're willing to kind of deal with the entire scope of having to maintain a hairpiece in order for it to look natural, then that is a really great option that people need to learn about. And Joe, I don't know if is Joe there, by the way?
Yeah, I'll pot him up.
Yeah. Joe, I know that you cannot take off that hat or that bandage and deal with your, possibly wearing a hairpiece, but God, it would change your life, dude. It really would.
No, it wouldn't, Spencer. Not really.
All right. You're stubborn, man. I love you, but you got your shit, you got your shtick, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Well, until an effective treatment comes out, then my life will change dramatically.
That's an effective treatment for a lot of guys. Like I said, I have a guy that I know who is the most productive, most well-heeled, just highly functional dude that chose at a young age to wear a hairpiece, and he lives his life. He's a very handsome guy. Like he's built like like he's a bodybuilder, like a brick shit house. The guy's huge. He's like 6'4". Got a beautiful wife. And you know what? He's got to glue his hair on, once a week or whatever he does. Happy guy, lives his life.
Well, before we get there, can I make one quick comment, Spencer, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, actually, expert opinion on you and Andrew. A lot of my fans, like Scorpion, Ratty, and Arista, they want my email address. They want to communicate with me. I appreciate that, but what would the result of that be, Spencer, if I get my email address out? In your expert opinion?
In my expert opinion, I think that you need to remain as disconnected as possible because of who you are, and I don't think it would be beneficial to you in any way. But if you want to contact with them, be in contact with them, you could always just set up a Google email address or a Yahoo email address, and you communicate with them.
Oh, set up a different email address. That's your expert opinion.
My expert opinion is to try to remain as anonymous as possible. Believe me, if I was able to do that, I would. The internet is an insane place. It's a very scary world out there. And, I'm in a position where I can't remain anonymous. My face is out there, my voice is out there, my work is out there, my resources are out there. But if I had the opportunity to be Google proof, in this world, I would probably pick that. I would make that choice.
Well, even Scorpion asked tonight that he wants to communicate with me, and I think Scorpion's a very effective caller. I want to thank him for calling, Spencer.
I want to thank him for calling too. He's not only an effective caller, I think he's a smart guy, and I think that he kind of shows, a unique side of the spectrum, just like you do. But he's a much younger person, so it just goes to show you that whatever the age is, people are severely affected. Scorpion, you're 25, you say, and Joe is 53, right? 52?
54.
54. And Joe feels the exact same way as you do. So it really depends on where you are in life and how equipped you are to deal with hair loss or not feeling as attractive as you'd like to be. Listen, guys, I'm going to close the shop. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think Scorpion's a worse case than mine because he demands absolute perfection. Well, I demand near perfection, not absolute perfection. So I think Scorpion is kind of worse case than me. I mean,
I think and he might be, and it's still a good example of how this shit affects us. How difficult it is to deal with this, and like I said, I deal with it in my way. I am not far from perfect. I paint my head. I every day I have this compact of Durmatch, and I fucking paint the entire head and blow dry it, and that's how I live my life. That's it. That's what I choose to do. But you know what? I don't look at myself in the mirror and say, "Oh my God, I'm not perfect looking," or I'm fortunate that I don't have to deal with that. Scorpion and other people, they do deal with that, and that's unfortunate for them, and that makes their lives so much more difficult than our lives, Jim. So I feel for everybody. I've dealt with a lot of shit. He's dealing with what he deals with, which is different than what I deal with or what you deal with, and you deal with things differently than other people deal with. That's what makes the world go round.
Well, I'm not that bad. This bed ring, I just want to say thank you, Spencer, for everything. Thank you, Andrew. I want to thank you, producer Andrew.
Well, Joe, you're a good-looking dude. I mean, you got your own fucking set of problems. You never had to suffer like this, but it's your mind that's made you, be this way.
My what?
Your mind, your brain. When people see you in general, you're normal-looking. When I met you first, I was like, wow, Joe's a good-looking dude.
Who said that?
I said that. When I first met you 10 years ago, I was shocked I thought you were like 400 pounds. And, the way you sound on the air. And when I first met you, I was shocked at the way you look. So, we all have to put everything that we deal with into perspective.
Well, I wasn't shocked by your appearance. You're exactly what I expected. A very handsome man, even though you're taller than I thought.
Yeah, I think I sound short. I don't know what that means. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, and thank you, Scorpion, for a great call.
Yeah, you know what? And I hope that I have my studio all set up for next week's show. If not, I'll do it from the living room again. You know, just make sure that I'm on the air, and we're here to answer questions, here to guide you in a safe direction. If you are concerned about your hair loss, just need to vent, this is always the place to call every Tuesday night. We also do the UK show every other Sunday at 8 p.m. GMT time, 12 noon on the West Coast, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. And, of course, you can go to baldtruthtalk.com message forums if you just want to, interact with other hair loss sufferers who are dealing with what you're dealing with. You can check out thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. And, of course, if you want to learn more about hair loss and, some of the basics of the hair loss and hair loss industry, check out AmericanHairLoss.org. That's the American Hair Loss Association. Until next time, be strong. God bless. And I want to thank Andrew Zarian for producing the show tonight, and, of course, the GFQ Network for syndicating this program internationally. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
I'd like to thank all of my guests today. They did a swell job in showing us how easy it is so that we can really do it. If I can do it, they can do it, you can do it. But bye for now.